Ladies and gentlemen, this is huge. On page 4 of the latest filing of the Durham Probe Special Counsel, John Durham writes, "It was only recently when the government determined it would need to call an employee of Fusion GPS as a trial witness." So they're done in terms of if there's a witness at Fusion GPS, a witness among the researchers that searched and fabricated Alpha Bank nonsense pertaining to Trump, and if there's a special agent at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, all serving three key witnesses serving to undermine every absurd claim from attorney-client privilege to, it was just legal consulting, they have no defense. If you have a witness from Fusion GPS who will state categorically, yeah, we were working to set up and frame Trump. It was purely political. It had nothing to do with any consulting or legal advice. Fusion GPS wasn't consulting. They weren't giving advice to the Democratic Party. They were obtaining a Steele dossier, which was full of lies and nonsense, to then funnel through the United States government. So here, it was only recently, this is page 4, when the government determined it would need to call an employee of Fusion GPS as a trial witness, the Fusion witness, and that the government concluded these issues could not be resolved without the court's attention, because all or nearly all of Fusion witnesses' expected testimony in these matters concerned work carried out under an arrangement that privilege holders now contend was established for the purpose of providing legal advice. It is essential to resolve the parties' potential disputes about the appropriate bounds of such testimony and the redaction or withholding of related documents. So, not only is Durham going to get the documents that he needs, because the interesting thing is, Sussman is saying he didn't lie to James Baker about meeting the FBI legal counsel on behalf of the Clinton campaign. However, the Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party are saying, yes, they hired Sussman of Law Firm 1, Michael Sussman. And indeed, their interactions with him are protected under attorney-client privilege because, he was their attorney. As his defense is that he wasn't going on behalf of any legal services, and he was just giving information to the Federal Bureau of Investigation because he was a good citizen. So people are going to get indicted. More people are going to get indicted. There's 3 people indicted thus far. Kevin Kleinsmith, a bureau official who fabricated information and just fabricated evidence to prolong a FISA investigation. He lied to a judge. Now, he was a government official. Igor Danchenko, the Steele subsource, one of the sources for the Steele dossier, which was a completely fabricated document, like the definition of an attempt at undermining democracy. I love when Democrats and media talk about how they need to uphold democracy by framing their direct political rivals and spreading lies through media. It's pretty unbelievable. It's almost as if, they're lying about that also. It's really unbelievable, and the fact that nobody understands this or knows this, or I should say not nobody, half the country is interested, and half the country is not interested. Half the country that voted, virtually half of the electorate that voted for Trump is very interested in this, and half the country that thinks Trump is a madman is not interested. Hit subscribe, by the way, to this channel. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel below in the pinned comment, ladies and gentlemen. I have a very important segment. A lot of people don't see what's really taking place. The stock market crash is taking place right now before our eyes. Now, it might not be like you might say, well, you know what? It's not a 10% drop in one day or 20% drop in 2 days or 3 days. Like, well, all of this is leading towards a catastrophic market crash. We're seeing it right now. The beginning of the market crash is taking place. Whether it goes a little bit up from here and then drops in a catastrophic manner, I can't tell you exactly how it's going to take place. But the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, they're going to be, you're talking about thousands of points lower within the next 4 to 6 months, like 5, 6, 7, 8,000 points lower in the Dow. And about 3,000, 4,000 points lower in the NASDAQ. And that's a conservative estimate, 6, 8, 9 months. But we're heading into not just a U.S. market crash, but a global stock market crash. Or I should say, a U.S. stock market crash and a global financial catastrophe. You have Sri Lanka, that the country went bankrupt. Germany is heading into recession. We're heading into a recession. A lot of other countries are heading into a recession. Global debt, $303 trillion, is at an all-time high record. U.S. household debt is at a record. So, we can go on forever. Credit card debt is at a record. Hedge fund debt is, the assets under management for hedge funds are at an all-time high of $4 trillion. We don't know how many hundreds of billions is margin. And Dodd-Frank and others, the Dodd-Frank Act, and I explained in my Federalist article, I wrote about all of this and predicted all of this in the Federalist article in October of 2021. It's below in the pinned comment. But anyway, hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. We'll have a derivatives nightmare like Archegos, the hedge fund that went under. One small hedge fund. The man who ran it lost $20 billion in one day last year. And that led to $10 to $12 billion in losses for investment banks that gave the money on margin to these hedge funds. Then you had Maven Capital with GameStop. Then you had a whole bunch of these these hedge funds. Then you have initial margin requirements for hedge funds changing. And they're going to be increased margin requirements, and they're not going to be able to trade on as much margin, and they're going to have to post more capital to trade. And you'll have hedge funds that might receive margin calls immediately just to meet the initial margin requirements. This is later this year. That's in addition to interest rates going up, while GDP goes down and contracts. Anyway, this is about the Durham Pro Special Counsel, but I've been telling everyone that you have no business being in the stock market. If you're about to retire and you need that money to live, you have no business being in the market. And if you have money in crypto or the stock market, because crypto will tank also. Bitcoin, digital currencies will tank also because they'll follow the market. If you have money in the NASDAQ or the Dow Jones, S&P, index funds, whatever, everything's going to tank. And you're going to see, especially individual stocks, you're going to see a huge, huge loss of wealth. Anyway, I've been telling people this. I have a stock market crash channel. Watch it. Watch my latest segment. I know people say, well, stop saying you predicted this and stop saying you were right. It's like, well, you're watching this channel for a reason, so. And you're watching the Stock Market Crash channel, hopefully below in the pinned comment for a reason. To my new Patreons, thank you. Very much. And share this segment everywhere. It's very important. It was only recently the government determined, so they're using a Fusion GPS witness. And the Fusion GPS witness is going to explain exactly. On the same date, Fusion GPS co-founder sent an email to aforementioned New York Times reporter, providing him a link with a website to Alpha Bank related data, and apparently had been posted on the internet. The reporter responded, "Thanks. Where did this come from?" To which the co-founder replied, "No idea. Our tech Maven says it first posted via Reddit." The referenced tech Maven is the Fusion witness. So you sit through my spiel about the impending stock market crash and financial catastrophe with inflation at record highs, and we had inflation at 2%, gas prices at around less than $3. With Trump, oh my God. Then there was this article in Politico today that I was, there are people in D.C. who want to ensure that former Trump officials don't find work in D.C. or aren't able to, go to D.C. parties. It's like, well, first of all, they're probably not. If they're Trump Republicans, they really have no desire to go to these parties, but they set up and framed Trump. The entire D.C. establishment set up and framed Trump with the help of Fusion GPS and Michael Sussman and Glenn Simpson and all these people and Christopher Steele and all of these people. And the Democratic Party, the DNC, the Washington Post, the New York Times, and you have a tech maven. So the star witness or the key witness, the Fusion GPS witness, knows exactly how the information was derived. Most likely completely fabricated and user-created like the Alpha Bank nonsense. So there were two stories. Actually, there was more than two stories, but two primary stories were that Trump had a secret communication channel with servers in a bank in Moscow. That was a lie. That was completely fabricated. And then you have a tech researcher who helped compile that stuff, who knows exactly how they fabricated or twisted the real information that they found. Now there's a tech maven, a fusion witness that the government's going to use to explain how Fusion GPS either completely fabricated the Steele dossier, well, actually, the whole Steele dossier was fabricated, but helped also further the Alpha Bank story. So the Fusion GPS was also helping further the Alpha Bank story while they were furthering the absurd Steele dossier story. On October 31st, 2016, the same date that both Slate and the New York Times published new articles about the Russia Bank 1 allegations, one of the Fusion GPS co-founders emailed Yahoo News reporters stating big story on Trump Alpha server moving early PM. Campaign will light up, I imagine. On the same date, Fusion co-founder sent an identical email to a Reuters reporter. In some Fusion GPS records, none of which contain reference to a single lawyer, reflect that far from acting primarily as a confidential expert or legal advisor, the firm functioned instead as an aggressive disseminator of information, and as what one journalist has called something of a public reading room for journalists seeking information about Trump world. Okay, so the real story behind the Steele dossier, The Atlantic, that was from The Atlantic. Okay. Media was in on it too, but then media could say, well, we were duped. These were our sources. But 18 U.S. Code 371, which is you waited 13 minutes for this, all he has to do is indict people on 18 U.S. Code 371. The intent to deceive is there. Everyone involved knew that their allegations against Trump were not true. Hit subscribe to this channel. That is 18 U.S. Code 371. Simply, okay, Adam Schiff was on The View like a while back, and he said, oh, well, we had to investigate the allegations. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. There are many allegations about Hunter and Joe and James. They're not being investigated now by Democrats, okay? It's a choice. When you deceive and you actively try to influence the United States government, and there are government officials that help you, and they're there. Okay, you don't need an actual contract where everyone is just signs under oath saying, okay, we're all working in unison. You can indict under 18 U.S. Code 371, and I wrote about that in The Federalist pertaining to McCabe and Comey. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. When two or more people conspire to defraud the U.S. government or the American people, you can indict under 18 U.S. Code 371, which is obviously what they did. Literally nothing they said about Trump was true. Nothing. And you had tens of millions of people believing it, and you had the United States government investigating absurd claims that he had a secret server. Why? Because Fusion GPS and Michael Sussman and his team of researchers found this information. And they were, just happened to be paid by the Clinton campaign and the DNC. Okay? By the way, you had government officials believing this nonsense, and media all too willing to spread absurd fantasies about Trump. And then Trump is the bad person. They're not the bad. They're not the bad. They're not the immoral side. It's Trump. Give me